Okay, Dr. Rob Ford, question 4 of the 2013 Election and Voters essay topics. 50 years ago, women in Britain and America were more likely than men to vote for right-wing parties. Now they are more likely to vote for left-wing parties. What explains this change?
Right. Well, the first thing that you'll want to consider in this question, as so often on this course, is the evidence underlying the charge. The question is asserting gender differences in voting behaviour in both countries and a change in those gender differences over time. So is this is this a claim that is borne out by the evidence? How large are the gender differences we find in voting behaviour, and how do they relate to other relevant factors about voters, age, class, ethnicity? The second thing to remember when looking at this question is that the question is actually making two separate claims. It's claiming that women used to be more right-wing in their voting behaviour, but are now more left-wing in their voting behaviour. You need to assess each of those claims and consider, first of all, why would older women have been more right-wing? Why would have women in earlier elections been more right-wing? And why are younger women now, women voting in contemporary elections, more left-wing? It's important to remember that it could be different factors that explain those two patterns of distinctive voting behaviour. Thirdly, you want to give plenty of consideration here to the factors that drive long-term change in voting behaviour, because the question is asserting a long-term change, a shift over 50 years in the general pattern of female voting behaviour from more right-wing behaviour to more left-wing behaviour. And in particular, you'll want to consider the Inglehart-Norris argument about the effects of development on the economic role of women and their social value orientations, and which weighting to give to each of those factors, economics and social values, in driving the change in women's choice. But when doing that, you also need to give consideration to the limits of a long-term social change-driven argument. Such explanations can't explain short-term shifts in voting behaviour, and therefore they can't really be the whole story for us. So you'll also want to think about other factors that may operate in a more short-term way, such as, for example, the strategies of the parties in terms of winning over women's vote, the ideologies they pursue, the policies they pursue, which may influence women and men distinctly. This can be both social policies, such as things on abortion, but also economic policies, such as policies to do with childcare, part-time work, and so on. How do these fit in with the broad claim of the question that women are moving ever more towards the left?